Hello everyone, this is Crypto BitLaw back with your blockchain legal brief, and today we're going to discuss developments in the Ethereum Max series of lawsuits because there actually ended up being multiple lawsuits that were filed, and recently the court ordered that those lawsuits be consolidated. So we're going to break down the developments in those cases and how they were consolidated under one caption and one major file. Before we dive in, if you enjoy this content, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We'd really appreciate that. With that said, let's dive right on in. All right, so here we could see is the docket for this particular case, and as we can note, the title of the case was changed from Hugrich versus Gentile and the rest of the Ethereum Max executives to INRI Ethereum Max investor litigation. And for those of you that are unaware, whenever you see INRI in any sort of legal terminology or legal sense, it just means it's Latin for in the matter of, pertaining to. So that's what this particular piece of legal jargon means in this sense. So scrolling down the docket, there was the initial development with the complaint that was filed by Ryan Hugrich, and the original complaint that we went over about a month or so ago. And then the appearances and the withdrawals and the pro hoc vice notices for the different counsels that came in. And then as we get down to, I think it was document 28 that was filed on March 2nd, it was a motion, I think it was a joint motion or stipulation to consolidate cases because there were multiple lawsuits that were filed, complaints in this matter. So let's take a look at this document right here and see what it's all about. Okay, so here's a copy of the document that was filed, and we can see it's titled A Joint Stipulation for Consolidation, Appointment of Lead Counsel, and Schedule for Filing of Consolidated Complaint and Responses thereto. Right, and so that pretty much boils down what this document's all about and what it's asking the court to do. Both of the parties, the plaintiffs and the defendants, from both of the separate cases are coming together and saying, hey, we want to consolidate all of these pleadings, filings, motions, arguments, all of it into one case so we don't have to fight this on multiple different fronts for the sake of consistency and efficiency. And since they were, both of the different cases contain nearly identical fact patterns, it just makes sense for the court to do this. And then the parties ask the court to appoint a lead counsel. That's, I guess, for the plaintiffs in this sense, and we'll see who that is, and a schedule of filing consolidated complaint and responses thereto. And so they're also asking the court to set a new scheduling deadline for actually filing a consolidated complaint and a response to that complaint by the defendants. And so here we could see it's still in the United States District Court for the Central District of California, and here was the original case that we covered, Ryan Hugrich versus Gentile, Perrone, Kardashian, Mayweather, and Pierce. And then there was the other one, Submergian versus Gentile, Perrone, Kardashian, Mayweather, and Pierce, and the John Does, so on and so forth. And so let's take a look. Let's see. Okay, it begins the plaintiffs, Hugrich, Submergian, and the other ones, and the defendants, Gentile, Perrone, Kardashian, Pierce, and known collectively as the parties, submit this proposed stipulation and proposed order. And it goes on to state that the plaintiffs filed the above captioned class actions in the court. The actions are brought as a class in which they seek to recover damages against the defendant over the alleged promotion and sale of Emax. The plaintiffs in the actions agree that the actions contain nearly identical factual and legal contentions and that the efficient administration of justice would be best served by consolidating the actions and appointing lead counsel as set forth herein. Okay, and the stipulating defendants agree that the action should be consolidated and take no position regarding the appointment of lead counsel. So they're saying, yeah, the defendants, we agree we should consolidate it, and we don't really care who your lead counsel is, plaintiffs. And the parties wish to set forth a scheduling for the filing of a consolidated complaint and defendants' responses thereto. And so the plaintiffs are going to come together and file a consolidated complaint. They're going to bundle all their arguments and allegations into one, and the defendants are going to respond to that in a consolidated manner as well. And so here, it is hereby stipulated by and between the parties hereto that their undersigned through their undersigned counsel as follows. Consolidation. The following actions be consolidated for all purposes. So here were the case names, the abbreviated case names, case numbers, and the dates that they were filed that are going to be consolidated. So Hugrich versus Gentile, that was the first one, the one that we cover, and then Submergian versus Gentile. That's the second one. So one was filed on January 7th, the other one was filed on January 19th. It continues, defendants are not required to take any action with respect to the complaints filed in this action, including answering or otherwise responding. The actions are hereby consolidated for all purposes, including pretrial proceedings, trial, and appeal, and referred to herein as the consolidated action. Every pleading filed in the consolidated action or any separate action included herein shall bear the following caption. And so Central District, Western Division, California, and then they changed the name to Ethereum Max Investor Litigation. And here is the case number. And so they're going to consolidate them under a master file, and just more about how the documents are to be captioned and what they relate to. Okay, so down here on the 5th page, we get to some of the more pertinent information, particularly this section deals with appointment of interim lead counsel. And here in this paragraph, we can see that John T. Jansach of Scott & Scott Attorneys at Law, LLP, is hereby appointed as interim lead counsel in the consolidated action. And then here we can see that any agreement reached between counsel for defendants and any of the plaintiff's lead counsel shall be binding on other lead counsel and any other counsel for any plaintiff in the consolidated action and on the plaintiffs. Okay, so that's a fair amount of power given to John Jansach. And then it gets down to the scheduling. So it states defendants need not respond to any of the initial complaints in the actions. So you get a free pass on the initial complaints in terms of the defendants. They don't have to respond to the initial ones. But plaintiffs shall file a consolidated complaint within 45 days of the entry of the proposed order. So the plaintiffs have 45 days to file a consolidated complaint. Defendant shall serve and file any answer or response to the consolidated complaint 45 days after the service of the consolidated complaint. So the defendants are going to file an answer or response to the consolidated complaint 45 days after being served with it. Should defendants move to dismiss plaintiff's consolidated complaint, plaintiff shall serve and file any opposition to that motion to dismiss within 30 days after service. Defendants shall serve and file any reply to plaintiff's opposition within 21 days. So there's this long scheduling period, 45 days, another 45 days, and then if you want a motion to dismiss, 30 days, and then another 21 days. So you can kind of see why the litigation process is so long and so arduous and so drawn out. These things just take time. And here are all of the orders, or all of the signatures of the law firms that signed off on this joint stipulation, and an attestation clause, and a certificate of service. Okay, so turning back to the docket, we could see docket entry number 29 on March 3rd was an order that was issued by the court. Let's see what the court ordered. Okay, so lo and behold, it was an order by the court granting the joint stipulation for consolidation, appointment of lead counsel, schedule for filing, and the responses. And it closed one of the other cases. So now we consolidated everything under this one new case number. And it states, presently before the court is the joint stipulation. It's hereby ordered that the stipulation is granted, and the following actions, which involve common questions of law and fact, are hereby consolidated for all purposes under the federal rules of civil procedure. So we can see Hugrich and Submergian versus Gentile are now consolidated into this one case in Ethereum Max Investor Litigation. And let's see if there are any other pertinent parts. It just kind of gives some authority to lead counsel right here, and then cherry picks certain portions of the joint stipulation. Defendants need not respond to any of the initial complaints, and then sets a scheduling order. Plaintiff shall file a consolidated complaint no later than April 18th, and then the timeline to respond, and then the timelines for the motions to dismiss if the defendants so move to dismiss this case. All right, so as we can see here, these cases are continuing to trug along through the legal system. It's interesting to see that as we can decipher from these pleadings, Kim Kardashian, she's roped in, so she has the defense counsel in there. Same with Mayweather. So all of the major players are served and roped in, and they're now part of this thing, right? So it is going to move forward, and it seems like the parties hashed out their issues in terms of the different fronts of litigation that they were fighting on, the different cases, and now everything is being consolidated into one case. And so I can foresee this continuing to develop. I would imagine that the consolidated complaint is going to contain many of the factual allegations and causes of action that were previously listed in the original initial complaint. And I foresee the defendants, it would be really interesting. I can't wait for the defendants' response to that complaint to come out. I'm sure we'll cover that and we'll go through their defenses. I'm sure they're probably going to deny a lot of the allegations. I'd like to see what they come up with. So we're going to cover that when that happens. And then I think it's only natural that these defendants, Mayweather, Gentile, Perone, and Kardashian, they're going to move to dismiss this case because they set out clearly in a scheduling order for that. And I feel like that's going to be a no-brainer. They're at least going to take a shot at trying to dismiss it. So that's where we stand. As we said before, this is going to be a long, arduous, winding road that is going to take quite some time. It's going to be at least a few months before we have any more major developments in this case, because there was that 45 days for the plaintiffs to file their consolidated complaint, and then 45 days from service of that for the defendants to file a response. So within about 90 days, give or take, a little under 3 months, we should have the response that we can go over together and see what the defendants have to say for themselves in this matter. But all in all, interesting developments. Good to see that this is actually playing out and how it's actually playing out. Interesting to note that there were actually 2 different cases that were filed. So I guess multiple law firms had the same idea of kind of trying to jump on this gravy train in terms of class action plaintiffs firms and get in the collective shakedown. So interesting. So I hope you guys enjoyed this content. Please, if you did, like and follow or subscribe to our channel. We'd really appreciate that. And with that said, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.